Chris gets to run this remote from
All right.
his computer.
So it's live on stream. And we'd like to thank Desert Financial Credit Union for sponsoring our KRIM Community Spotlight program. Good morning, Rim Country. Happy Hump Day to all of you out there listening or watching on our KRIM radio live stream on Facebook or on our YouTube channel. Hey, this morning we have in Frank and Sandy. It took me a moment, like, wait a second. Frank and Sandy from the Rim Country Museum and Zane Grey Cabin, and I guess from the Rim Country, is it Historical Society? Or
Northern Gila County.
Northern Gila County Historical Society, and we're going to learn more about the Rim Country Museum, the Historical Society, also the Zane Grey Cabin, and talk about the free day. So there's free admittance to the cabin this Saturday, and that's from 10 to 4. So it's a great opportunity if you've never been down to the Zane Grey Cabin or to the museum to go check out both of these places, because they're just wonderful. Well, it's like a little treasure, I think, here in Payson to have all this history that's been captured in the Zane Grey Museum and also the Zane Grey Cabin. So, yeah, let's first start Zane Grey. I guess since that's what this Saturday is about, it's to celebrate his birthday, which is the 31st of January?
31st of January, yes.
Okay, and each year, the museum or historical society, how long have you been doing this free day for the cabin?
That's a good question. For at least 10 years, I think. I don't know what they did before that.
Gotcha.
Can't remember, but I've been doing it for a good number of years.
So for a while now. So again, if you don't know, the Zane Grey Cabin, Rim Country Museum are right down there in Green Valley Park. You can't miss them as you're coming into the park. They're on the right-hand side, the cabin, and then the museum is right behind it. And this is a great way, I think, to recognize, to honor Zane Grey, but also for people to come out, tour the cabin, and hopefully go into the museum as well, right, Frank?
Absolutely. A lot of people don't know much about Zane Grey, but he probably is the most read American author ever. More than Mark Twain. Upwards of 500 million copies of his books have been printed, translated to 24 different languages.
Wow.
And so we're really unique and fortunate that he chose to come to our area back in his early travels.
So when approximately did he first come to Arizona?
Well, the first trip he made was in 1918, and he came really for two reasons. One, he wanted to hunt because game was very plentiful and he wanted to hunt bear. And secondly, he also was researching a book on the Pleasant Valley War. So he actually went to Pleasant Valley on his first trip when he came in.
That's something also I think maybe people don't realize is the Pleasant Valley Wars and how significant that was and the magnitude of those wars.
Some people contend that Arizona was held off from getting recognized as a state because they couldn't deal with that issue over in Pleasant Valley.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So I know, what is it, the Hatfields and McCoys are kind of the most popular, feud that you hear about. But that's nothing in comparison to...
Probably more people were killed.
Oh yeah, with Rams and Tewksbury.
Yeah.
There were more deaths and definitely a more violent feud. And yeah, it went on for a while. So yeah, that's interesting. So he came to do more research on that.
And it's difficult, but he was an outsider. They really didn't care to talk to him. And so he struggled, and after a couple of years of going back and forth and not really gaining much, he kind of changed his focus from being a recounting of what happened to more of a novel. So the book To the Last Man is based in part on some of the things that happened, and also some of it is novelized, if you will.
Gotcha. Now, where this cabin that is in the park, it's a replica of the cabin. Where was his cabin located?
If you know where Cole's Ranch is, about 5 miles, I guess, north, right up under the rim.
Mm-hmm.
About a quarter of a mile, half a mile from where the fish hatchery is, going west.
Gotcha.
Still very remote up there. It's still on a dirt road.
Mm-hmm. And now that cabin was lost in, was it the Dude Fire?
In the 1990 Dude Fire, the last structure to burn.
Wow. So when was this cabin constructed here in Green Valley?
Glad you brought that up, because its 20th anniversary is going to be coming up in October of 2025.
Really?
Yeah.
It'll be 20 years old.
Wow, so 2005 is when that cabin was
It
built.
was dedicated.
Do you remember or know what, I guess, was the force, the driving force?
Well, I
behind
wasn't
that?
here at that time, but Dick Wolf
Mhm.
and Don Wolf and lots of other people. Dick, I met Dick, but he must have been a driving force. He got so many. He knew so many people.
Mhm.
He knew the governor. He knew so many people that he was able to get involved in building, because that was quite an undertaking.
Mhm.
And a significant amount of money to raise, which happened here in Payson pretty much,
Mhm.
to be able to reconstruct and do it from the original blueprints and plans that were used in 1919 when it was built, or started built. So I always, when I give tours, tell people, it's like we're walking back in a time machine 100 years to what it was like when Zane Grey was here, not just, oh, we kind of prettied it up and this is what a cabin's like. It's like it was when he was here. Fortunately, he was a photographer and we had a lot of pictures.
Well, but the interesting thing about that, when Bill Dell bought it, when it was disintegrated back in the 50s and rebuilt it and whatever, he did not have any photographs of the inside. Those didn't show up until about the time that they were doing this one. So actually the inside of the cabins, particularly around the fireplace, is exactly what it was when Zane Grey was there.
Wow. Yeah, that is something to be aware of, because I guess people could assume that maybe, okay, you're guessing, you know, what it might look like, or just putting some period appropriate pieces in there, but you have a very good idea of exactly
Well,
what it
and
looked
one
like.
of Zane Grey's sons was still alive at the time. He apparently wasn't well enough to come, but I understand they were in communication with him quite a bit about what was in the cabin when he was a kid.
Wow, so with all the time that he spent at the cabin and up here in Rim Country, were any of his books based in Rim Country or about Rim Country? He would have to have some books, I would imagine.
He would, and I'm gonna let Sandy answer, but he was very specific about representing a place that he had visited and seen, and then sharing that with the reader so that they mentally could see what he was seeing. He was very talented at putting that reader into the place. And so many of the places you see around here that he describes, you go, yeah, I've been there, that were in his books.
Wow.
Yeah, there's at least 13 of them. I mean,
13,
Under
wow.
the Tundra Rim is one of my favorite, Code of the West, Arizona Clan. We usually include the Pleasant Valley book in the local area as well, but we do a pretty good job of getting people interested in reading and tell them that, you know, you're here, you're seeing the country that Zane Grey saw, and you'll recognize it in the books.
Wow. Again, this Saturday from 10 to 4 p.m. is the Zane Grey Cabin free day event, and now that is for the cabin, so entrance into the cabin is free this Saturday. You still have to pay the entrance fee into the museum if you'd like to go into the museum, but it's a nominal fee and definitely worth it. I mean, with all of the exhibits, with all the history that's in the museum, Oh my gosh, it's
Chris,
great.
we have a couple of communications between Zane Grey and Babe Haught, who was his foreman on the project. In the museum, one shows, first of all, here's kind of a progress report of what we've got done and what we're working on. And I think he sent it to Zane Grey, Avalon, California. That was it, because he was on Catalina Island at that point.
Oh, wow.
And then we have another one that's kind of a list of all the people that were working and how many hours they had. So they still did payroll back then too.
Yeah, wow. Everyone's time cards, or, you know, the time. Wow, so again, that's this Saturday, and it's just a great opportunity. You know, before the program we were talking that there probably is a high percentage of residents that have not been to the museum or to the cabin. They probably see it on a regular basis if they go to Green Valley Park or drive past the park, but have never taken the time to go to the museum. And it's definitely worth it. I know it's also a great spot to take family or friends when they're visiting and you're looking for something to do. It's a great place to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can I share a quick story that
Yes.
Sandy pulled on me when I was a relatively new docent? And I had not really read a lot of Zane Grey prior to this, and so she recommended a book that actually takes place up on the rim. It originally was 30,000 on the Hoof, and then he rewrote it and made some changes to it, and it was republished as Woven of the Frontier. I gotta say, it's my favorite Zane Grey book I've read out of maybe 25 or so that I've read. And so she said, I want you to know, because he actually names places, their Pace and Mormon Lake and Pine and Long Valley, places you can look at on a map and see. She said, I want you to figure out where this book took place. Where did the characters live? And it was a case where there was a canyon that had natural steep walls. So for this rancher to raise cattle, there were natural barriers to predators, and it had water and it had grass. So I'm sitting there, I finished the book, and I'm sitting there on the map trying to figure out where this place could be. And it was 6 miles from Long Valley. So I got my little circle on there, and I said, it's gotta be where KRIM Reservoir is. Which was originally Big Dry Wash, you know.
And that's one of them that they talk about going to a dance at the schoolhouse. And that had to be at Strawberry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so I came back to Sandy and I said, I think I figured it out. And she said, well, where is it? And I said, I think it's KRIM Reservoir. And I said, am I right? She goes, I'm not sure. I go, "Arr."
It's up there.
It's up there.
It's up there.
It's one of the few books that he used real names of things. So many of them, you can figure out what he's talking about, but he doesn't use the right names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Phoenix
okay.
becomes Felix, like in Under the Tunnel Rim.
Gotcha.
Someone comes from Felix.
Okay.
Okay.
Huh. That's interesting. But in that book, he did use
He
the
does
actual
use
names.
some actual
Yeah.
names.
Wow. So the cabin, he had the cabin here. Did he have cabins in any other locations since he was such an avid hunter, fisherman?
It's common that people think he had other cabins. There were places that he would go and stay,
Okay.
but not that he owned. So
Okay.
the only two that I'm aware of were the cabin here in Arizona, and then he had one on the Rogue River in Oregon. And he would go fishing for steelhead. In fact, his son went out fishing with him, and I read a really nice story that his son wrote about them, because they got skunked that day, but still, he was glad to be out with his dad.
Again, if you're just tuning in or just started watching on our KRIM Radio Facebook page, we're talking with Sandy Carson and Frank Tresnak from the Northern Gila County Historical Society, and also Rim Country Museum and Zane Grey Cabin, and talking about the Zane Grey Cabin free day event That is this Saturday from 10 to 4 p.m. And the cabin is in Green Valley Park, right next to the Rim Country Museum. And it's in celebration of Zane Grey's birthday, which is January 31st. So, Zane Grey, is there a time, or at some point did he stop coming up here, or coming to Arizona?
Right.
Well,
Start on that one?
in 1929, there's a little bit more kind of background to the story. People didn't realize that he actually had a film studio in Hollywood that made silent movies from his books as his career started off. And he sold that to the people that started Paramount Pictures, Jesse Lasky and Famous Players.
Wow.
So he had a relationship with them, and he brought a film crew in 1929 to do a documentary on bear hunting.
Okay.
The game warden came to the hotel in Flagstaff where they'd gotten off the train and said, I don't know if you know it or not, but the state of Arizona has changed the start of bear season from October 1st to November 1st. And so basically you can't go out. And Zane Grey was not a guy who said you can't go out.
I didn't take that real well then, what you're
He
saying.
corresponded with the governor of Arizona and the head of Game and Fish, because a lot of his books were based in Arizona. People around the world knew Arizona, and so he wanted them to give him a one-time exception, and they said, thanks for everything you've done, but bear season starts November 1st. And so the old story was that he said, I'm leaving and never coming back. But we recently read a diary that the Zane Grey West Society put of someone who was on the trip. And there were two things that were just, eye-opening, at least for me. One was, there was a road had gotten to Payson, and he did not feel safe going out in the woods hunting. His party that year, they were all wearing red coats and red hats so they wouldn't get shot. And he called them, he said, there's tin can cowboys driving up and down the roads with shotguns in their probably Model Ts or whatever could make it through the roads. And so he did not want anyone in his party to be shot. So he backed off. He did not hunt for bear until after the 1st of November, and he actually shot a 550-pound black bear on that trip. So we just found that out like a couple months ago.
The Zane Grey West Society, they do some really good work, but in addition to that, because also it was people that he didn't, there were too many people around, but he was here with two of his children, a couple of other people. They had 3 vehicles, and they went up into the Grand Canyon, over into the reservation and so forth, killing time before he decided to go. So to me, it's like, I can be here, but I don't want to see the rest of you here. Because, he had an entourage with him, yet he took exception
to people.
And people that are living in Payson now are often really surprised that there wasn't a link to the valley from here down the beeline until the 30s, and that was a gravel road. I mean, it was hours to get there.
Wow.
And they go, really?
Had to do Apache Trail.
Apache Trail, wow. Yeah, so again, if you like history, if you want to learn more about the Rim Country, this area, then I definitely recommend, if you haven't been out to the Rim Country Museum, or if it's been a while, because during COVID, you guys did kind of like a revamping of the museum.
We have Julia Randall's classroom now, and it has
right.
been a tremendous hit.
Upstairs is
Upstairs,
the classroom.
it's really- kids love it, parents love it.
Oh, that's great. So again, the museum is for all ages, really, so you can see and learn more about the history of Rim Country. And this Saturday is the Zane Grey Cabin Free Day event, where there's free admission into the Zane Grey Cabin. You still need to pay if you want to go into the museum, but again, it's a small fee and definitely worth every penny. Can you tell us, maybe need to talk a little bit about the Historical Society, Northern Gila County Historical Society, a little bit about that group maybe? And is it a group that is open to residents that, you know, want to volunteer or be involved? Are there any opportunities?
Certainly.
Okay.
We're open just Thursday afternoon, Friday, and Saturday now, but at one time we were open 5.5 days a week. COVID hit us really hard. We got a lot of good things done during that period of time, but volunteers didn't come back. And so we're doing really well.
Okay.
We're doing really well the days that we're open, but we really would like to be open a few more days.
Okay.
Especially going into summer, because there's a lot of people that are getting out of the heat, and we're one of the attractions that they'll come up and see. So.
And I believe I'm seeing more people at Green Valley Lake and Green Valley Park. There just seems to be more people out there during the week, on the weekends, so that probably translates to more people visiting the museum and the cabin as well.
Well, it's actually fun
Yes.
being a docent. If you like people and like to talk, it's made for you. We know we can do training and we have things to read and so forth. It's not that hard to learn.
And it's a limited number of hours. Typically, a docent will work 3 hours a week or every other week, or depending what their calendar allows. And so it's not a huge time commitment.
And how long would you say, if somebody is planning on visiting the museum, and I know it depends on the individual, how long it takes to get through all the exhibits, but average, what would you say, how much time?
Zane Grey Cabin is 25-30 minutes. And
Okay.
we have that scheduled. In the museum, some people spend 2 hours in there, but you could get a good grasp at it in 30-45 minutes.
There's about 22 exhibits, and it's all self-directed, so you can read, and if there's an item you're really interested in, you can really pour through a lot of the details, and if not, then you take a look-see and you move on. So.
We have some short videos on the touch screen as well.
And now the museum covers Rim Country from how early?
Prehistoric.
Prehistoric, okay. Wow.
A lot of prehistoric peoples were in this area, and that's a big part of the history.
And I love the pictures and the stories. I just have to say it. I know you probably hear it a lot, but Leo the Lion. I love that. It's just such a great story. Such a great story. And you can learn more about also the sawmill. The history of the sawmill, the Owens brothers, and just how the sawmill got started, its role here in Payson, in Rim Country as well.
We have the last blade. That big one on the wall is the last blade that was used in the sawmill.
Really? Oh, wow.
And I don't want to burst your balloon, but it wasn't actually Leo the Lion that was trapped here. It was Francis.
Francis, that's...
because
that's
MGM
right.
had
Like,
multiple
yeah.
lions, but
gotcha.
yeah.
Both male and female. So.
Okay, Francis. That's
Yeah.
right. So more accurate would be an MGM lion, one of the
Well,
MGM lions.
and
Yeah.
for people that haven't heard the story and really come and see, because you see the plane and you see the pictures and everything. A plane, that was 1923, I think, the plane crashed in the Hell's Gate Wilderness. And Francis the Lion was aboard, and that's how they were transporting it to different locations and events and everything that MGM was doing. And so,
Wow.
I think he was there a couple years, wasn't it? That they had to house the lion before they could get him moved back?
I don't think.
Maybe it was a year.
He was brought back to the Harrison Garage on Main Street. And apparently they let school out so kids could see. They'd all seen mountain lions, but they hadn't seen
Yeah.
an African lion.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that would be something. You're in school and then all of a sudden, you know,
see the lion.
people all excited and it's like, hey, there's a lion, the MGM lion. Wow.
You know, something else that we just had that's a new exhibit, and Sandy knows probably more of the details, but we were recipients of a 45, isn't it? The Ruger that's...
Oh, yeah, it's, oh dear me, I should have asked me this before. Yeah, it started out as a Ruger, but a company buys them, and they'll make 1 to 10 special ones, engraved and so forth. And so we have been the recipient of one of the Payson ones, and it's got it's beautiful. I mean,
Wow.
it's gold plated,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
Then Zane Grey is engraved on one
it's
side,
an Arizona Charlie on the
and
other.
Arizona Charlie on the other,
other.
and Payson, and the 48th state, and the little flag. I mean, it's intricate. We did some special lighting so that you can see it easily from underneath, as you know, because there's so much detail there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're very fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing, if I can mention, bouncing around here, we were also recipients of a painting that was done by an artist back east in the early 1920s. And a lady in Pine Top contacted us. Sandy talked to her and arranged for her to donate this painting to us. Its significance is it was used as the cover art for the Zane Grey book, Forlorn River.
And
we're
it's exact. I mean,
Wow.
it is the painting that was used.
And
Wow.
we're fortunate, we have it in the cabin, we have the book, so we can share that with
The donor
people.
said she's quite sure that her father bought it directly from the artist and painted in 1923.
Mm-hmm.
So what I haven't been able to find out is whether Harper's bought the rights to use it as the cover
Mm-hmm.
and then allowed the artist to sell it,
Mhm.
or whether somebody along the line saw the painting and got the rights to use it as the cover. But it is definitely the cover of Forlorn River.
Wow.
It's quite a nice painting.
Wow, that's really that's fascinating, and it's really cool. The things that you must see that come into the museum over the years that have come in.
We've been very lucky lately with some very nice.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and you can check them out this weekend, this Saturday. Again, the Zane Grey Cabin Free Day event is this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the cabin and museum is located at 700 South Green Valley Parkway, right here in Payson. If you wanted to give them a call, get more information, their phone number is 474-3483, and their website is rimcountrymuseum.org. And again, it's free entrance into the cabin, but if you want to go into the museum, there is a nominal fee, entrance fee. Again, it is more than worth it, and the money goes to a great cause because it goes to the operation of the museum, to keep it going, to keep it open. Also, the Northern Gila County Historical Society is a 501c3. So is there the ability on the website, or can people make donations, bring them into the museum?
Absolutely.
Betcha.
You betcha. Not going to say no, right, Cindy?
Yeah, we've had some very, very generous donors over the last couple of years.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's worth noting, it's not funded by the town or the state. It's through donations, through all the volunteers, board members, everyone that contributes to the museum and the historical society that keeps it open and going.
Yeah, we do offer memberships for
Okay.
the museum. A family membership is $35 a year. You get free access, you get passes,
Oh, wow.
you get
Okay.
the newsletter. So it's very inexpensive to stay on top of what's happening
Mhm.
with our history. And being all volunteer, as Sandy referenced earlier, you know, we'd love to be open more days, but we're just looking for people who want to put some energy and time. You don't have to be a historian. You don't have to know a whole lot about the history, even when you're new to the area, but it's a nice way to meet some wonderful people. And I've met people from all over the world, New
Yeah.
Zealand and Finland and different countries in Europe, all over the United States, as a course of being a volunteer.
Mhm. It is amazing how many people come to Payson or through Payson from, as you said, all over the world.
Sure.
I'd like to recognize the town
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way, right? We own about 1.5 acres of land.
Mhm.
And several years ago, people set it up that We own the land, but we have this agreement that the town does take care of the grass and watering and so forth in between the areas. And that's, that would be a big job if we had to do that ourselves, so.
Oh, that's great. Well, oh my goodness, I think it's well worth it, to have the museum and the cabin in Green Valley Park. It's such a wonderful attraction and, a little treasure, I really think, for the community.
And a lot of people who may have been newer to the Payson area might not realize that on our property, we had the original Forest Ranger station. And the building that is the gift shop was his residence originally.
Wow.
And it took an act of Congress.
Quite literally.
Thank you, Barry Goldwater,
Yeah.
for getting that to happen, where the land was given to the town and deeded to the Historical Society. Way back when, I can't remember what year that was, Cindy.
A while ago.
Long time ago.
And then 1977, 78, I think, when it was finalized.
Yeah.
But Marguerite Noble had a lot to do with that.
Wow.
And then the actual museum building looks like the old Heron Hotel. In fact, from the lake, if you look, we have a sign that says Heron Hotel. Every now and then we get a random person saying, "Are there any rooms available?"
That's happened.
Oh boy, and the Ranger is still up there in the lookout tower. I mean, you can see him up there.
And that was the top of the tower that was on Mount Ord.
Mount Ord, wow.
The actual top is called a cab, and so the Forest Service wanted to put a larger cab in place on Mount Ord, so they took the old one down and they kind of sat it on the ground, and it was supposed to go to South Mountain down in Phoenix, and for whatever reason it never happened, so we managed to get the top section, and that's what's on.
That's 1933.
1933, wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Again, you can learn this and much, much, much more about the history of Payson and Rim Country at the Rim Country Museum. And this Saturday is Zane Grey Cabin Free Day in recognition and honor of Zane Grey and his birthday being January 31st. So you really should, if you're able to head down. And if you've never been to the cabin or museum, definitely check it out. And if it's been a while, the museum has been changed up, new exhibits added, so it would be worth a visit. And that's this Saturday, 10 to 4 p.m. Well, thank you so much, Sandy and Frank, for coming on. It's after 10:30. We can keep talking about history and Payson and Rim Country. Golly, you're only scratching the surface with what we talked about today. I mean, there's so much history here.
Can I share one other thing that we have as an upcoming project here? March is Women's History Month nationally. We are doing a celebration of women in Rim Country on Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd of March, featuring a number of people who have been here and experienced life in our area and the aspects of life that we think would be worthwhile to share with groups. So there'll be a series of short talks, exhibits. They might have photos, they might have notes, whatever. One person said they're going to sing a song. I don't know.
And she's a descendant of the first ranger.
Really? Nice.
And so more information will be coming out. We're putting this schedule together and that, and we've gotten a lot of participation from local people.
And if you didn't say women, all women would be free.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
And women get in.
Not guys.
Not guys. Nope. You pay. And it would be great to have you back, and maybe one of the women that would be speaking, singing, come back in March to talk about that event before the event occurs, and recognize the women, some of the women that had a big impact in Payson and Rim Country. That'd be wonderful.
And if anybody is listening that has a story or wants to be involved, please
contact the museum.
Because we're just getting started, just trying to.
There we go.
Okay, what we're gonna
No, that sounds great. Again, that is in March, so If you have a story you'd like to share, or your family was a part of the history, you know, of Payson and its founding, then contact the Rim Country Museum. Again, they're at 700 South Green Valley Parkway in Green Valley Park in Payson, and their phone number is 928-474-3483. Well, thank you both again
Thank you
for
very much.
coming
Thank
in
you,
this morning.
Chris.
Oh, yes, you're very welcome, and hopefully there's a big turnout this Saturday
We hope so.
at the
The
Zane
weather
Grey Cabin.
cooperates.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that one, but we'll see. It's, yeah, chance of sunshine, right? Always a chance of sunshine. Well, time to get back to the music with some Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Wonder, Lumineers, and more. But first, let's get a quick update from the National Weather Service. Hi, well, you are welcome. All right, see you later, guys.